Here's a pretty gross and creepy parasite, the botfly. So this is the botfly. This one is an adult, and I'm gonna be honest, I think that this is really cute. I think this is like an absolutely adorable bug. Like, it's cute, it's fluffy, it's got big eyes, it's adorable, and I love the adult botfly. It is the cutest fucking fly. I think I'm weird for that, but like, come on, it's so cute. However, the larva and the life cycle are not. They're not even a little bit. Slight trigger warning, I am going to show the botfly larva parasitizing. I'm not going to show the bad pictures. If you Google it, there's some really creepy ones. If you want to look it up, go for it at your own discretion. I am going to show a mild one, but if you don't like gross things, if you have a weak stomach, maybe just scroll away. So the botfly, like I said before, its larvae are parasites. They can be either internal or external. This is an example of the external parasite on human skin. That is the larva. The larva is burrowing into the skin. It's gross. If you want to look up the more pictures, go for it. Be warned. Be warned, they're kind of gross. Largely, botflies are animal parasites, mainly mammals. There are one or two species that regularly parasitize human, like this one. So, depending on the species, the life cycle can come about a few different ways. Sometimes they use intermediate vectors, such as ticks or houseflies, to transport their eggs. Sometimes the females just transport them themselves. If they use a intermediate host vector, like a housefly, the female botfly will catch the housefly, lay the eggs on the housefly, and then release it to go transmit it over to other things. Same thing if it's like a tick or a spider. Often they do use these intermediate vectors because botflies themselves are rather recognizable, so animals know to avoid them or kill them or eat them or whatever to avoid getting the eggs laid on them. So the intermediate vector is often used in those cases. After the fly has laid the eggs on the vector, the eggs just kind of stay there until they get to an animal host, in which case they sense the body heat and just onto the skin or the fur of the host. Then at that point they do their thing and start to burrow their way into the skin of the mammal host. Now, after the eggs are deposited and hatched into these gross little larvae, they can either stay burrowed in the skin of the animal host, or sometimes for the ones that are internal parasites, if the animal sniffs or licks or scratches the area that the botfly larvae are on, then it gets transmitted to their mouth and nose, where they get ingested or inhaled, and then the botfly larva will burrow into the internal body cavity walls instead of the external skin. So they can start growing within the mouth, the nasal cavity, the lungs, the digestive tract. Internal, where it's not good and also kind of gross. So the larvae hang out and take nutrients from the host for however long it takes. Again, it varies between species, but at the end of the larval stage, they will transform into the adult botfly, detach, fly away, rinse and repeat. Now, usually this is pretty harmless towards the host, if a little bit irritating, but sometimes if there's enough botfly larvae, it can start to cause problems if their host is kind of like taken over with more larvae than the body can sustain. That's where it starts to cause problems. Also, internal ones can cause a bit of issues, especially if in the nasal cavity or the mouth, because that can interfere with feeding and breathing. Additionally, some sites where the botfly larvae burrow into the skin are prone to infection, so sometimes the host does get infected by bacteria through that way, and that can cause a bunch of problems. But most of the time it is not harmless, but it's not life-threatening, it's just mostly annoying. Interestingly, in some places, specifically up north in areas of like Canada, Russia, Greenland, all up there, where it's very cold and there's not a ton of food sources, botfly larvae are sometimes eaten, specifically the ones found on like caribou and reindeer. They grow rather large, so they're kind of harvested and used as a food source because they've got a lot of protein, so that's very interesting. Apparently they taste kind of like milk. So yeah, and honestly, very cute adult with a horrifying life cycle and larva.